radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today is Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. 203 days into the new year. Only 162 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Seriously. A total undisclosed location, but it is beautiful. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, at KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? Nice. It's like this. What an amazing week this last week. Duke Sullivan, Glag. That was an amazing show last night. And tonight, James Fox. James Fox is back, and he's here to take his UFO Victory Lap. Tomorrow night is Fader Night, and we've got Ron Keel here. He's going to help me man the phones. He's going to be taking your phone calls. It's open lines all night long with Ron Keel. It's your calls, your conversations about everything, and it's going to be an amazing night tomorrow night. What a way to close out the week. I haven't had a weekend off in a very long time, and I just got some news. I may not even be taking this weekend off, and it's cool, though. All right? I was hoping for a weekend off, but it doesn't look like that's quite happening at this point, and there you go. All right. Oh, man. Are you guys used to this new version of TweetDeck? Have you guys switched over? I'm tempted to go back. I don't know. It looks good. It looks good. I like the... yesterday, I was pretty excited. I'm not as excited today. I don't like having my notifications half screen. I don't dig that, and I can't figure out a way to change the view. But I'm going to continue to work on it. And what is this right here? Hold on. What does... Okay. All right. You know what? I'm going to hold back. But have you checked out the new version of TweetDeck? It's the highlight of my life. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'm going to jump straight into it tonight. We've got a lot to discuss. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. We don't bite. Come and hang out with all the Fadernauts over there. There's some Fadernauts over on YouTube, Fadernauts over at KGRA, Fadernauts over on Spreaker. Chat rooms are open. Everything is live and running. Go and hang out. Everything is interactive on the show, live every single night. You can also email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. If you have any questions, Fade to Black questions, hashtag F2BQ, right there on Twitter. And 3 hours ago, Jorge, his question, what's your opinion of Mick Ronson? Mick Ronson was a guitar god. I mean, I don't think. You know what though about Mick Ronson? Had the chops, songwriting abilities. He could sing. He did all of that, the arrangements and everything. But he looked like a guitar god. Yeah, man, that Les Paul. Loved Mick Ronson, all of them. So there you go. Any questions or comments right there? Hashtag F2BQ. And some breaking news. I want to get this in. Also, in a minute, I'm going to get to John Greenwald's huge story. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. I posted it up on Twitter. I don't know if I got it over into Facebook or any of the groups yet. The story was broke this afternoon, and there's a lot of backstory to it. I think John lays it out pretty clearly in this article. But when I spoke to him today and he was giving me the background on it, I said, this is a big deal. And he goes, yes, it is. And not only do I think it's a big deal, I'm going to talk about it in just a minute, but there are those out there, you know, that are into UFOs and UAPs, whatever, UFOs. And then there's the next level of investigation where we know the names and the current, and then you even go up a level above that, the serious research that is done into this. And this article is going to blow those serious researchers' minds. I mean, I think it is potentially explosive and huge. Not potentially, it's going to be. But for everybody else, I think they'll read it and go, yeah, okay, it's interesting. But it's a huge story and its implications. And I'm going to get to all of that in just a bit. So stay right there. And but anyway, some other like crazy breaking news today. And one of them is about us. Homo sapien sapien. Different groups of hominins probably learned from one another much earlier than was previously thought, and that knowledge was also distributed much further. A study by archaeologists at Leiden University on the use of fire shows that 400,000 years ago, knowledge and skills must have already been exchanged via social networks. The discovery was published in PNAS, that's the PNAS, on July 19th. Today is July 21st. The team conducted research on the traces of fire made by hominins at archaeological sites in various places throughout the world. This is some serious breaking news. And also, I've got this. Now, you got to put your thinking caps on. But check this out. Just let your brain go for a second and absorb this. A slice of material, just a single atom thick, is now breaking records. The ultra-thin wafer is a magnet. That's right, a magnet that operates at room temperature, opening up avenues for the development of technology, particularly memory devices, and for research into ferromagnetism and quantum physics. It's a huge step for previous attempts to make a 2D magnet, which have lost their magnetism and stability when removed from ultra-cold conditions. This amazing achievement was made using a material called cobalt-doped van der Waals zinc oxide. The mixture cools into a single layer of zinc oxide with cobalt atoms, sandwiched between layers of graphene. A step of baking then burns off the graphene, leaving a single layer of atoms that are cobalt-doped zinc oxide magnets. It's absolutely insane. A single layer. Wow. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett. Yeah, I said it. He's 43 today, but he was great in the Black Dahlia, and he was amazing in Lucky Number 11. Happy birthday, Josh. Cat Stevens, otherwise known as Yusuf Islam, he's still Cat to me, today is 73 years old. OG, original gangsta in Faith No More, the guy with the red glasses. Guitarist Jim Martin, the beard, looked like Tommy Chong. Jim Martin today is 60. That's right. Our dead guy's birthday today is Don Knotts. Don Knotts, 1924 to 2006, died at the age of 81. Of course, Don was Deputy Sheriff Barney Fife on the Andy Griffith Show. He also played Ralph Furley on Three's Company, starred in The Ghost and Mr. Chicken and The Incredible Mr. Limpet. TV Guide ranked him number 27 on its 50 greatest TV stars of all time list. Yeah. You know what? In a weird way, you watched the Andy Griffith Show, and Andy Taylor, he's cool, but he's too straight. But I think we all wanted to be Don Knotts. That's a funny dude. Don died at the age of 81 on February 24th, 2006. At the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center here in Los Angeles of lung cancer. On this day in history, it went down. Sad day. I still haven't gotten over it. Happened in 2011 because NASA's final space shuttle mission comes to an end when the shuttle Atlantis lands at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I couldn't believe they pulled the plug on that. I still can't believe it. Fate or fact? All right, here we go. Fate or fact? The human body has roughly 50 to 75 trillion cells. That's what you got. 50 to 75 trillion cells. And half of them are red blood cells. Bet you didn't know that. That's your fate or fact. You know what's really funny? I've always got a dozen fate or facts in ready to go. They're here in a list, right? They're right in front of me. And I'm always fact finding. Don't you want to know my list for the next 2 weeks? It's right here. Man, my next one is good. I can't wait for tomorrow night. It involves Sweden. All right. Tonight, very special guest, James Fox is back. And tonight, James is going to take his UFO Victory Lap. That's right. Well-deserved, too. So stand by. James will be with us at the bottom of the hour. And then tomorrow night, Ron Keel. Ron Keel. What a cool guy. I mean, that's it. A great singer, great frontman, great songwriter. He's got it all dialed. Great performer. There's no question about all of that. But Ron Keel is one of us. He's a fate or not. He gets it, and he studies this. Huge fan of the show and all of that. But he's out there getting it done, and it's going to be great. So tomorrow night, he's going to be manning the phones with me. And there's another part to this. Anything that you would ask me, ask Ron. Yeah, well, except for what it's like to be the front man of a band. That's a question for Ron. But, yeah, Ron can go there. And we're going to do all of that tomorrow night. Yeah, UFOs, conspiracy, and time travel, and music, and guitars. We're going to do it all tomorrow night with Ron Keel. So stand by for that. All right. So I was talking about John Greenwald at the top of the show. Let me hit this Rivermoon coffee. rivermoonwellness.com. We've got the Amazon store. You can go there. Promo code F2B Blend. You can use that on the website. 15% off of your order today. Fade to Black Blend. We've got all of the Black Moon wellness products that are there. Go and check all of it out. And all of the links and everything are over at jimmychurchradio.com. All right. Well, now, okay. The story... this report, I should say, the journalism excellence of John Greenwald. And I say this so much, but in John's case, it just cannot be measured. And his importance to this community, for the last 25 years since he launched the Black Vault, and everything that he has done in his books and all of that. It's just an amazing contribution to the world of UFOs for all of us, and so much more. But where we are today with the UAP Task Force and this report and everything that has been revealed and the breaking headlines over the last 3 years, John has been the instigator for much of it. We have a lot to thank John for. This article today, this is a holy crap moment. And this was published on the Black Vault earlier today, July 21st, 2021. The headline for the article is one that I wouldn't have chosen, but I'm not John. And don't let the headline spell out the article. Like, you don't need to read the article sometimes when you just read the headline, right? Well, the headline reads, UAP Task Force initiated contact with NASA to brief them on UFOs, but they won't say why. Okay, so that's the headline to the article. And that right there is worth the price of admission, right there. But that's not really what's going on. Oh, that is what's going on, but the article is much deeper and much more explosive than that. So this is the article. I am going to read it to you now, word for word, with John's permission. And here it is. Now listen to everything that John says. On August 4th, 2020, the Department of Defense announced the establishment of the UAP Task Force. Its mission, according to the press release, was to improve its understanding of and gain insight into the nature and origins of unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs. The mission of the task force is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to U.S. national security, end quote. The DoD noted that incursions within training ranges or designated airspace would be the primary focus, okay? Land-based. And since its creation, they have conducted classified briefings on the topic for the White House, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, Counterproliferation, and others. Now, a new document sheds light on what else they were doing behind the scenes. In the Freedom of Information Act FOIA request filed by the Black Vault, it was revealed by the response that in the first month after the establishment of the UAP Task Force, they initiated contact with NASA and requested that they brief them on UAPs in their secure briefing setting. But the exact reason why remains unknown. Quote, during the course of its work, the UAPTF has reached out to organizations across DoD, the intelligence community, and the U.S. government, end quote. Pentagon spokesperson Susan Gao said in an emailed statement to the Black Vault. Quote, for security reasons, we will not detail the contributions of specific organizations to the UAPTF's work, nor the areas discussed with every organization as part of the UAPTF's investigations, end quote. Gao, who has largely been the voice for most UAP-related comments given on behalf of the U.S. government, issued this statement to the Black Vault after coordinating with NASA to formulate a response. Her word speaks on behalf of both agencies regarding the matter. It's a holy crap moment right there. This newly found discovery comes from documents obtained via the FOIA FOIA case number 21HQF00507, asking for emails sent to or from NASA Associate Administrator Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen, which contained keyword phrases such as unidentified aerial or unidentified flying, etc. It was motivated by a June 2nd, 2021 press conference wherein NASA Administrator Bill Nelson and Zurbuchen spoke about the phenomena. The case yielded a small stack of records, but one gave an important revelation not yet known to the general public. On September 13th, 2020, then acting Associate Administrator for the Office of International and Interagency Relations, Mike Gold, sent a weekly update email to a list of recipients, which included Zurbuchen and NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine and many others. Within the update, Gold talks about a briefing he would be attending at the request of the UAP Task Force, end quote. The document names all those who would be attending the briefing via a secure video teleconference. That meeting included International Space Station ISS Program Manager Joe Montalbano. That's right. Director of the Export Control and Interagency Liaison Division, Margaret Kiefer. Former Associate Administrator for Legislative Affairs, Suzanne Gillen, and Gold. Prior to working with NASA, are you ready? Are you sitting down? Prior to working with NASA, Gold worked for Bigelow Aerospace. That's right. Although potentially just a coincidence, Gold worked for Bigelow Aerospace from February of 2003 through April of 2016. This would put him within Bigelow Aerospace as the director of DC operations and business growth when they were operating the Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, otherwise known as BASS. That subsidiary allegedly investigating paranormal events and UFO sightings for the Defense Intelligence Agency. This program was called the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Applications Program, otherwise known as AWSAP. Think about everything that John Greenwald just laid out. Think about that. Now, why the ISS, the International Space Station? I just said, quoting John from this article at the front of it, that the UAP Task Force was looking at ground events. It spelled it out. It's in their own mission statement. Now, they're dealing with NASA, and even more specifically, the International Space Station. And Gold worked for Bigelow, for BASS, for AWSAP for 12 years until 2016. This circle of people is small. Think about that. We all know about Bigelow and his interest in UFOs and ET in contact, not only with Skinwalker, but go back to his 60 Minutes interview a few years ago when he was asked about, is ET here? He said, of course. Of course. Remember that? Now we're dealing with NASA and the UAP Task Force and the ISS, and who is at the center of all of this one more time? Bigelow? BASS? There's more to come in all of this. Now, I had stated in Twitter earlier today, I had said this is potentially, I think my words were, and I'll go back and let me see how I put this. I said, John Greenwald has just broke what may be the story of the year, and that is saying a lot. This is huge. And if you go and you read the headline from this, and you try to deduce something from the headline, UAP Task Force initiated contact with NASA to brief them on UFOs, but they won't say why, and you don't go and read the article, right? This is insanity. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's amazing. And this is potentially the biggest story of the year amongst everything that has just gone down. I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible. Unbelievable. All right. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I want everybody to go read the article. I've got it up in Twitter. You can go and click and head straight over. You've got to read it all. It's right there. And this is the other thing that John does in all of his reporting. All of the documents are linked. Everything is there. Everything is searchable and readable. And I am just reading the text, a partial text from the article. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. And tonight, you know what? I called him James Fox earlier today. I said, man, you got to read this article. What's it about? Told him. What? It's like that. Tonight, James Fox is here to take his UFO Victory Lap. It's so well-deserved. And tomorrow night, Ron Keel is here for Fader Night. He's going to be here manning the phones with me, taking your calls all night long. That's right. And then it's the weekend. Then on Monday, right here on Fade to Black, Travis Walton. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with James Fox. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. GetTheT.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. GetTheT.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's GetTheT.com. GetTheT.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, James Fox is with us. Tomorrow night, Ron Keel. He's going to help me man the phones here and take your phone calls all night. But tonight, it's about James Fox. James returns for his UFO Victory Lap. Well-deserved, because his films are some of the most respected in the world of ufology. And the phenomenon broke new ground leading up to the UAP Task Force report. Tonight, we're going to discuss his thoughts on everything in the world of UFOs and UAPs and what this director is working on next. James, of course, was born in England, raised in New York and California, began his journalism career early in his life as an assistant to his father, writer Charles Fox. Together, they traveled on many magazine assignments, interviewing such notables as Stephen Hawking and race car legend Dan Gurney for, like Rolling Stone, Car and Driver, and Sports Illustrated. He finished and sold his first documentary to Discovery by the time he was just 28 years old. Wait a minute. That math doesn't add up. James is like 86 years old. I'm going to ask him about this. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. But he has completed and distributed TV projects for Sci-Fi, the Learning Channel, National Geographic, and, of course, History Channel, and has made frequent appearances on Larry King Live, all of those quite historical, Nightline, Dateline, and Anderson Cooper, amongst others. His documentaries, Out of the Blue, my favorite, I Know What I Saw, my second favorite, and, of course, my favorite, The Phenomenon, are some of the most respected films on the UFO subject. His website is right there, thephenomenonfilm.com. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only James Fox. James, what's cracking?
What? I am so impressed with your delivery of that intro. I mean, it's like I could just keep on listening to that all night.
Yeah, well, you say that every time you're on the show.
Your voice just adds a level of gravitas to what I do that it just doesn't, I'm impressed.
Oh, man, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. And I want to let everybody know that James is coming to us from an undisclosed location. He's at Spielberg's house vacationing in Hyannisport. And what's it, I got to ask you, James, what's it like to be, the badass director walking around knowing that your films have not only meant what they've meant, but they've been so successful and so respected
but the phenomenon, man, you know, and it was so talked about, still watched. What? Just give me, just let me live vicariously through you. You know, what is that like? Are you at rock star status now?
No, you know, it's funny actually, because you're so caught up in the process of it all. It's kind of a whirlwind, and you don't really have time to reflect on what's actually happening, if that makes sense. Up until fairly recently, I think I remembered my father saying to me many times, actually, because I was always disappointed with everything I'd done. You know, it just didn't quite meet the mark. And he said to me, you know, son, and he was one of my biggest skeptics. He died being one of my biggest supporters. But he said, son, you know, you only need to knock it out of the park once. And I said, what do you mean, Dad? He's like, you know, with what you do, you only need to really knock it out of the park once to kind of set yourself up. And I don't know, I guess I didn't quite understand what he meant. And I'd say about 2 months ago, I heard his voice in my head, and I thought, you know, Dad, I think I might have knocked it out of the park. Maybe this is what you were talking about, you know? But it's weird. It's like the whole thing's kind of surreal. And you know, sometimes you kind of forget, and because the film sort of develops a life of its own. It gets out there and gets picked up and tweeted about, and you know, is an interesting journey. It was an incredibly tumultuous journey at times. I mean, my God. I mean, you know, it was just getting the film done, and then, of course, the ink dried on the contracts for a theatrical release. No sooner did that happen that COVID hit, then we had to pivot around that whole obstacle nightmare, right?
Well,
so you know, just constantly. Yeah, sorry.
If you, I just stepped on Spielberg just like that, man. I feel guilty.
Oh, please.
but James, if we go back to the excitement of our phone calls a year and a half ago, and going through the process of the film, and you were sending me clips, and you were asking me my comments, and your excitement, right? Jimmy, this is I'm telling you know, and I was watching it get developed, and then I don't want to disclose a whole lot here, but the release date, we've got the movie theater, we've got a national theater release, and the absolute excitement of it all, and it took a worldwide pandemic to take the wind out of your sails and deflate the balloon, and that was completely out of your control. How do you go from the adrenaline rush of the excitement of, you know, sign contracts, right? This is actually really happening, man, right? To all of a sudden the rug being pulled out from under you. The film continued on to huge success. We know that. But the stuff that you deserved, right? The premiere, the red carpet, and all of that.
People have no idea how close we came to a full, complete crash and burn. I mean, it was so precarious at one point. Your audience's eyes would glaze over if I went into great detail, but you know, we pivoted. We decided to pivot from, we had no choice. We you know, from a theatrical release, which was heartbreaking, because I hired one of the best, you know, Buddha Jones, to do the trailer. George Knapp had a connection. I think he went to college with the guy, John Long, who was one of the owners of the company. And we spent, I mean, weeks making a trailer that was going to be shown in theaters. I mean, it was a big deal, a really big deal. And then, of course, people were saying, you know, this was my opportunity that I've been waiting for. My sister was crying. She was hugging me. She's like, oh, my God, I've watched you your whole life. You've been wanting this, and this is your dream. And I'm so happy for you. You know, we're like hugging and crying, and she'd known what I'd been through to get to that point. I mean, my Lord, I tried for 27 years. And then someone's like, oh, you got to have it, you know, you got to get a 5.1 Dolby surround mix if you're going to be in theaters. got to have good sound. And I was like, well, my buddy's been doing the mix of the last, 5 films I've made. And he's like, no. This is a whole nother level, buddy. You need to go into a sound engineer. So anyway, I connected with a guy who was worked with James Cameron in Los Angeles at Juniper Studios. And he took a look at the film. And he's like, well, normally I charge $100,000. And I was like, $100,000? Jesus. Like, you're always, broke at the end of a prolonged, multi-year production. Even though some of my supporters, not all of them, but some of them had deep pockets, you can't just keep going back to the well. And it was like constantly new things would happen and, surprises and extra expenditures. And so the last time I'd gone to the well, they were like, that's it. It's done. You're not getting any more. So I was going to the bank and like borrowing money and taking out a loan and getting an extension on my credit cards just to pay for the sound design mix. It was like $50,000. I mean, it was like, Jesus, I've never in my life paid that for a sound mix. But apparently it's what I had to do to be in theaters. And they said, your film will succeed at a whole new level. People will be walking out of the theater not knowing what it was they hated about your movie if you don't have your sound right.
That's right.
So it was that important. Everybody told me it's that important, man. You have to do it. So anyway, borrowed money, getting the movie trailer all set up because it was going to be playing in theaters. It was so exciting. And then all of it just flushed down the toilet. It was like, oh my God. And I remember my sister called me and she's like, cause we're really close. I have 2 sisters. She called me and she's like, I can't believe it took a global pandemic to stop you.
I mean, I bought a I bought a new suit. I got my haircut.
I know. I know. You don't think I was devastated. Think again. But what are you going to do?
I know.
My dad used to say to me, son, play the game on the board, not the one in your head. The game on the board was, this is it. I got to let it go. And so we had to pivot. There was a guy named Dan Farrow who got involved, and he was like, a lot of people are going straight to streaming. This is a nightmare scenario for a lot of people. You're not in this alone. There are a lot of other people that have spent a lot of money, a lot of time, and all of a sudden they're confronted with the same nightmare. And so we went to pivot and we were going to have a release with Netflix, and then there were some mistakes made just under the cloud of COVID, whatever, and that sale couldn't go through either. And that was a nightmare. And that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks and just accumulated nothing but debt with lawyers.
Yeah. I spoke with Dan last week. Man, you're running with the heavy hitters, man. Wow.
Well,
see, most people don't, let's don't get into who he is, but I know who he is. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well,
anyway, but my point is, I was like, just trying to get this movie out to the world was like, Jesus, how many more obstacles are going to be thrown across my path? Like, oh my Lord, it was insane. And I remember, I think I'd revealed some of the frustrations I had publicly, but it was, it's almost a little embarrassing to admit that I was in a ball of crying for 3 days. I'd reached my breaking point, which I don't break easy, man. I'm really got a lot of stamina and I focus and I push hard, but I broke. I definitely broke. And, I was in debt over $1 million and there was so much, I felt like I was kind of sitting at the poker table and I pushed all in on one bet.
And lost.
And exactly. And a momentary loss of all right, sweeping everything. And, I got a mortgage and a family and it was just, it was kind of, put my family through a lot. Pretty terrifying. Honestly. And I remember thinking, my God, if this is what it takes to succeed in life in this industry, wow, no wonder why there are so few people that succeed at it, because it's really hard.
Now,
you know what I mean?
And so I want to move on, but there is an ending to the story. No. There's an ending to all of this. Of course, the film releases, and then boom, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank God. Thank God. Jesus, thank God. I don't know what I would have done otherwise.
So that's the ending of the story. Thank God. Yeah.
Oh my lordy! I know.
Oh,
and
man.
then there's another, because we had a very narrow window. I don't know how much I can actually discuss because of legal stuff, but I had a very narrow window to take advantage of the TVOD, which is transactional download, Google Play, Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo, all these platforms that you pay to play. People can rent it or buy it. Speaking of which, if one of the things people get really frustrated with me with is they find out later that if you do buy the film on one of those platforms, Vimeo and iTunes sells it for the same amount as everybody else, but they offer 3 hours of bonus material. People are like, "Why didn't you tell me?" It's like, well, I thought that all the platforms offered the bonus material, and they don't. It's just Vimeo and iTunes. So anyway, I got that one out of the way. But yeah, it was quite a journey, and getting caught up in that whole process is just a whirlwind, And then we had all hands on deck to release it on TVOD, and it was just I was a full-time job just doing the PR and the talk shows and radio and podcasts and. My Lord, that was sorry.
And this is one of the other parts to this that we don't see often, but I was thoroughly enjoying it, being a member of Hollywood and a resident and so forth, is variety, and the Hollywood Reporter and constantly seeing these stories on you. And distribution and film deals and new projects but about the UFO subject, and that doesn't happen in the Hollywood Reporter every day, and in Variety. But there you were, and as a director, you're in a genre that doesn't get this kind of recognition. What does it feel? I mean, all directors, right? Actors, they want they want to be in Variety. They want to be in the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
You, the UFO cat,
really,
right?
Yeah, no, it was really, I mean, but I've been, this is my 4th and a half film on the topic, and I've, done stupid TV shows, which no one to blame but myself for. But hopefully I had a lot to make up with the phenomenon, right? I had to really kind of outdo myself to kind of make up for all the silly stuff that I did with National Geographic. But no, it's been a breath of fresh air to see mainstream. No, it's been my goal since I started doing this in the mid-'90s to create a body of work that could penetrate a much broader, more mainstream audience. And that has been my sole objective. I've been criticized because I don't include some of the more out there aspects of the phenomenon, but I've always said, if you go back and listen to any interview I've done in the last 20 plus years, I say I'm doing this in baby steps, and I'm slowly introducing certain aspects of the phenomenon in the mainstream and trying to transcend into that genre away from, not that I want to get away from the UFO community, that's not the case at all, but we're already kind of in the know, and we need to get this over into mainstream. And so I would not push the envelope too far, just trying to establish that there's something truly inexplicable happening. This is the first film I've ever done where I deal with close encounters of the third kind. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, especially with some of the high-level government officials that I have in there. Like, that was kind of scary, thinking that they would look at it and go, ooh, pull me out. I don't want to be associated with little beings communicating telepathically with kids in Africa. That was something that was in the back of my mind the whole time.
Well, and there's another twist to this, and I hope you appreciate my thought process. But there is a certain challenge in life to take something like UFOs into the mainstream, and you never quite get there. So you work at it, and that's what you're driven by. But now you've done that, right? Does that take some of your bliss out of life, or do you have to elevate this to another level of challenge?
That's a really good question, and I was actually just thinking that the other day, because I was asking myself kind of quietly. I was sipping on a whiskey on the lake, and I'm thinking, did I just accomplish my 27-year goal? I always feel a little dissatisfied. I'm still hungry. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's not mission accomplished yet. getting a lot closer, and I feel like I've got a lot more eyeballs on what I'm doing now, which I haven't had that before. And that's both a good thing, and it's also a little scary because you're only as good as your last film.
Mm-hmm.
And so that puts the pressure on. I want to produce this next piece in a much more timely fashion. It's one case, and it's a fascinating case. And I've been there filming 3 times already. I'm going there again in a month with a pretty amazing crew, and some of which I can't reveal to the general public yet, but it will be exciting, I can assure you. And I also have a budget where I can acquire what needs to be acquired in a foreign country. So I'm very excited about that aspect of it as well, because I've been there, I've met with the military, I've met with some of the witnesses. I know what's needed to get access to certain things that I couldn't afford to have access to before.
Well,
so that's all exciting.
Well,
yeah,
hold on. You can't be that evasive here, because the first off, it's me, James. Number one. But number two, this announcement was in Variety and this deal and what the subject was and what the country was. So it's out there in the public. You can go ahead and say it. The audience would love to know.
Oh yeah, no. I'm doing a piece on an alleged crash that involves beans. It's commonly referred to as the Varginha incident. It took place in Varginha, Brazil, in 1996. And it involved a craft that we have witnesses that saw it crash. We have a new witness that we'll be meeting with. It's going to take us to the actual crash site that came upon the crash site. Witnesses that both new and some old, both military and civilian, that saw the beings alive. I know it sounds crazy, but I can assure you it's extremely credible reports from extremely credible people that I've personally met with. I interviewed a couple of generals, Brazilian generals, an Air Force and a Army general. And we're going there for a 4th time at the end of August. I'll be gone a full month. So I'll be living in Brazil, in and around the area for a full month. And I'll be going there with enough resources that, it's crazy actually, because we got written up all across Brazil that we were coming. I was like, what the hell?
No
it's secret. All in Portuguese.
Right.
No, I know. It's like everybody, the whole country knows we're coming. I'm sure the president probably knows. It's like this film crew is coming to shed light on, one of the biggest stories probably in Brazilian UFO history.
When that story broke in 1996, and I started to,
I didn't believe it, by the way.
Yeah, it was too incredible.
Nope, I didn't believe it. I did not believe it. I was like, no way.
You've got it's the full on everything, right? In this story, it's everything: the military, the government, the cover up, crash retrieval, alien bodies, alien live, alien death. The village, the town. You've got a nice beach, right? I mean, it's just it's got everything.
I have spoken with people both on and off the record. The level of confirmation that I got from an Air Force general, he passed after I interviewed him. He died a couple years later. And I was thinking to myself, I was talking to some of the researchers, the Brazilian UFO researchers that were with me at the time I interviewed this gentleman. And you know what? I'm just going to say it because he's dead now. And I have him on camera, but I don't have this part of it on camera. But I'll share this with your audience because he's gone now. And did the interview. He was, he sort of danced around the whole Varginha stuff. He didn't deny what is that? He neither confirm nor deny. He just really didn't want to go into it too much, but he confirmed the existence of UFOs and all these other amazing things. Excuse me. And when I walked into the car, he had a driver waiting for him. I was with Marco Leal. He's a UFO researcher in Brazil. He was my translator. And I said, there are no cameras rolling. There's no audio clips rolling. I promise you. You have my word. And as he got into his car with his driver ready to take him off, this was an Air Force general, Jose Carlos Pereira. I said, tell me about Virginia. Tell me about Virginia. And he looked at me, he stopped as he was getting in the car, and he said, it happened. And then he closed the door and off they drove. I was like, oh my God. That was a level of confirmation that it's one of those things where you could never translate that experience or that level of confirmation in a film or a doc, but that drives you, it motivates you, it keeps you going, because he's not selling that story. He's not willing to say that publicly, but to look me in the eye and say it happened and then just get in the car and drive off. I mean, it was almost like a scene out of a movie, you know?
Right.
And I would not have shared that with your audience had he not passed. In fact, I talked about it with the researcher, Marco, and he's like, I think we can talk about it now. He's gone. And I also thought, God, what a great potential title the other day. I was like, Virginia, it happened. Would that be a weird title? I don't know. The meaning behind it is kind of cool. So I don't know.
You know what's what's really funny? John Carter on Mars. His name is Virginia. Do you remember that in the movie? Go watch.
Oh no, I did not.
Yeah.
No.
Go watch John Carter on Mars. And so he tells them, the aliens on Mars. He says he's John Mars from Virginia, right? And that was it. So after that, he was Virginia.
Oh my God!
Through the whole movie.
It sounds, because it's a modern day Roswell. It's the Roswell of Brazil, but it happened in 1996. So most of the witnesses are still alive. I've met with the sister of the military officer, Marco Teresi, who handled the body, the alive creature,
right?
Who later died of a sort of systematic immune system failure. We're interviewing the doctor who worked on him, the sister, the family, a number of military witnesses that I'll be meeting with, that we will be disguising their faces, but they're going on the record.
Well, I've only got 30 seconds. We can talk about this after the break. But what's the cooperation like from the military? Are they being dickish? Are they being intimidating? Or do you feel comfortable?
No. They're basically saying that there are a number of them that are willing to come forward that want to talk about it, but I have to blur their faces.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I'll agree to that. Sure. If that's what you want, that's what I'll do. Yeah. So there's some of that going on. There's also interviews that were shot by some researchers of all the military, some of the military guys that were involved in the operation and the recovery that has not been revealed and made public. And I'm actually going after that footage as well. I mean, I'll do everything I can to get my hands on it. You can take that to the bank. That's why I'm staying there for a month, because I know that's what it takes. I'm renting a house just outside Virginia, and I'm going to be posted up there with resources and connections, and I'll just ride it out and wait, because I've tracked down people before that way, and that's the best way to do it, is just to rest and wait. But people know that I'm coming. Military people know that I'm coming, and we want to find out ultimately whether we'll get our hands on. What we'll get our hands on is still unknown. We've got some great testimony already, but our ultimate objective is to find out where that debris went and where the bodies went.
I want to do the VO on the trailer. Virginia, it happened. James Fox is our guest.
You knew the truth.
Yeah. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. James Fox is here to take his UFO victory lap. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow James Fox on Twitter. It's James C. Fox. We've got it all up there right now. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. KGRADB.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Well, yes. We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back
Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, James Fox is here. That's right, James is taking his victory lap. It's got to feel pretty good. It really does. Long career. Great stuff. And Virginia. So, James, you got to go and watch John Carter now, just for that line. And it's
Virginia. Hey, I gotta say, I don't want to start any public controversy or anything, but Race Hobbs, boy, his voice gives yours a run for the money.
I know. When I grow up, I know. When I grow up, I want to be Race Hobbs. Yeah.
I was like, Race, man, you got it going on. I heard that. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I got to say, when Race is on the show, he's listening right now. He's producing for us. But when Race is on the show, I get to just kick back and take the night off. He's such a professional, and he's so knowledgeable, and he's got those pipes, and I don't have to do nothing, man. I can just kick back, and it's just some of my favorite nights on the show are with Race. Besides you, James, of course, but.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
But, you know, Elvis Presley said the only voice he was jealous of was Roy Orbison.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, see?
I mean, you got a great radio voice. Race Hobbs, man. I was like, wait a minute.
I know.
Something's up here.
I know. And Race knows it, too. So we need to stop right now. Well, yeah, he knows it. We need to stop right now. So, there's so much to talk about with you, and calling this the victory lap, and it is deserved. But there's another element to all of this, and that is not only who you have known and put in your films over the years, but you're well connected, and you're always in the middle of things, as you should be. But the UAP Task Force report, just the fact that it happened, I think, was a big surprise for everybody, that it actually was released on the 25th. And just the announcement of the UAP Task Force and the formation of that was a big deal. And I think a lot of this, and probably including yourself, James, is it ain't going to happen. It's cool, but, well, we'll see. Well, it did. And the components and the people and the personalities around the UAP Task Force, you have been in the middle of for a couple of decades now. What did you make of the announcement of the report, first? And second, what was your reaction when you read it?
Well, I think it's a good question. It's like, a lot of people are like, oh, these negative Nancys are like, oh, it's just a big nothing burger. I'm like, well, actually, I don't really see it that way. The fact that they're basically saying, the United States, we've got a larger budget, most advanced aerospace than Russia and China combined, and that the administration and Congress concur that these objects are not classified U.S. aircraft. Chris Mellon wrote a good little piece, a short piece called "Don't Dismiss the Alien Hypothesis." If you kind of read between the lines on it, those were some pretty powerful statements. I mean, they're not saying it's alien, but they're not saying it's not alien. And it's the fact that they're admitting not only that they're real, but they're not ours, and they're exhibiting a technology that's way beyond anything that we have in our possession, and extremely unlikely that China or Russia has it. I mean, hello, that's a pretty bold statement. I'm sorry, but think about where we were before 2017 and where we are today. So much has happened, and I know this because I can gauge the level of criticism and ridicule that I have received over the last 3 decades has stopped, like almost entirely. Some of the biggest skeptics that used to really laugh at what I do. In fact, I'll tell you, I'm on a family kind of trip. It's an annual event with my partner Rebecca, with her family in North Carolina, and one of the gentleman, this guy named Charles, and he's a doctor, and he's always been making fun of me for the last 10, 12 years, but he's gotten kind of quiet lately. Like, wait a minute, maybe James wasn't so crazy. Because look, man, you can't, 60 Minutes, I've been waiting my whole career for 60 Minutes. Do you know how exciting that was for me to see 60 Minutes do a serious piece on this. You know how exciting it was that the New Yorker did a serious piece on this? The New York Times, you know, Fox News, CNN, like all these other, it's unprecedented. It just is. And we can't put the genie back in the bottle. So I'm extremely optimistic as to what's happening. I think we need to keep the pressure on and keep pushing hard. I know I'm going to do that, but it's exciting. And I don't feel it's a big nothing burger.
Now, I'm going to get into some specifics on a few points where, as happy as I was, there was always something that rubbed me the wrong way. And it wasn't ever 100% satisfaction, like when you bite into a Big Mac.
No, definitely not. No,
right.
I'm focusing on what was more so than what wasn't, but yes.
So specifically for me, going back to 60 Minutes, and I'm speaking with you, and we are always very candid with each other. So let me throw this out there. At 60 Minutes, I sit down, I'm ready, and at the beginning of the piece, UFO was mentioned, right? And I thought, okay, here we go. All right, because everybody in the world knows the pop culture meaning behind UFO. UAPs, not so much, if at all. But here we have UFOs. And then they never said UFO again in the piece. So if somebody came in and missed the beginning, now they wouldn't know that piece had anything to do with the subject of UFOs. And I felt that CBS took their foot off the gas. They should have gone back midway and at the end and brought in UFOs. And you do that in radio, right? You come back after the break. Who am I talking to? What are we talking about? Because maybe somebody didn't hear the intro to the show. You understand what I'm saying? And and I thought that CBS missed it. And I don't know if it was by intention or not, but I was kind of bummed about that.
I'm looking at the segment. It's 13, almost 14 minutes long. It was aired 2 months ago, and it has 9.4 million views on their YouTube channel already. That is fairly significant. I mean, yeah, sure, someone could have missed it. I get it. But it was a short segment. It's not like an hour. It was 14 minutes. And the intro, I thought, was very 60 Minutes-esque. And I don't know, I personally was like amazed. I was amazed to see 60 Minutes talking seriously about the phenomenon.
And,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And if
I sit there and say it was missing this or missing that, you know what? Another thing that frustrates the hell out of me is I see like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why the hell are they talking to Neil deGrasse Tyson? Neil deGrasse Tyson hasn't done any of his homework on UAPs or UFOs at all. And I sit there and I hear him say, well, if these things were real, why doesn't the government have better sensors and better photographic evidence? I'm like, they do, and they're all saying that they do, and we're trying to get it released. Next question. Well, if these things were, it's like not even addressing the fact that 50 years ago, they categorized sightings in 3 categories. The scientific advisor, Dr. Jalen Hynek, as to close encounters of the first, second, and third kind. They're not even talking about the fact that there are beings associated with the crafts. Credible reports. That's just completely missed. Not a single word about it. So there's things that, am I frustrated? Of course I'm frustrated. Do I hear mainstream media try to catch up with this whole story? Absolutely. They're scrambling right now. We've got decades on them. Field research and talking to eyewitnesses. I mean, I think they're coming to the realization that the phenomenon is real, and probably that we're not alone. I mean, I've talked to, some top executives at CNN. I was putting together some shows with CNN. Anyway, and I talked to some pretty high-level people there, and they're like, yeah, we saw your movie. Wow. I was like, well, you guys didn't know any of this stuff? They're like, wow, we all watched it. I was like, well, good. I'm glad that we're having an effect, because I think one of the fortunate things the phenomenon did, we obviously need to get more eyeballs on it, is that it puts the current state of affairs with what's happening today in context with what's already happened. So you've got the history, and then you've got this gap, and then you've got, what's happening today. And that really, I think, puts the pieces of the puzzle together in a way that hadn't been done for them in the past. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And there's a whole new wave of things that are happening with the phenomenon. I mean, it's kind of cool because we would have had a much, probably, undoubtedly, we would have had a much bigger splash with the film as a Netflix original when it got released, but it would have been like the flavor of the week or maybe the flavor of the month, and then it would have been sort of,
gets
forgotten.
buried.
And
Yeah.
it gets buried. Netflix has got so much content. But so we had more of a slow rollout. We hit it with TVOD, which is the transactional download stuff that's on you Google and all that stuff, and Amazon and iTunes, blah blah blah. But now we're transitioning over to a streaming platform, and we've got a number of big streaming platforms that are vying for it, and we're obviously going to pick the most impactful one. So that'll transition in the next month or two, and that'll be a second wave of millions and tens of millions and millions of more people seeing the film, which we're very excited about. So it's more of a slow burn for the rollout of this film, which is exciting. We're sort of keeping the whole thing alive and getting out there to the international community. And there were certain restrictions that we had that are no longer present that prevented us from doing that before. But since June, the field's kind of open on that. So there's going to be some very exciting new announcements with the phenomenon, the film, The Phenomenon, coming up this probably, towards the end of this year, maybe the fall.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time as we're starting to figure out the digital distribution platform, when in the past, for so many years, it was released in theaters, and then it would you'd have a 6-month quiet time, and then it's released on video, right? And that was the cycle. Yep. That's the cycle that you went through. Cycle. And now it's totally different with a digital distribution system. First off, it's direct, and you don't have this crazy mafia-esque middleman distribution network thing that was always going on out there. And you never knew money, and it was just a confusing way of doing things as a director and as a production company and even as an actor, right? How things were being handled. Digital is a totally different thing, and your product, whatever it may be, can have legs forever, right?
Yes.
And if you handle it right.
And a multitude of different platforms. Like when I sold I Know What I Saw and Out of the Blue, it was pretty much like, one big sale and then a couple of smaller sales, but not much. And that was that. Right?
It's gone. It's gone. It's done. It's out of your hands.
Yeah, it's gone. And, but today, and it's funny actually, because when we were wrapping up the deliverables, I can't say that correct because it's how you feel when you make deliverables. It's delivering the film to a specific outlet, and they have so many different requests. It's a nightmare. We call them deliverables. But when you do that, it was kind of like, okay, you do it once. Like I sold it to A&E, or I sold Out of the Blue to NBC Universal, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you might make one or two other sales here and there, but no, it's done. But now it's like there's so many options, so many platforms. Like, my God, it makes my head spin. It's like, and some of them are free streaming platforms, but you get paid per view because they've got commercials. Well, that's great for a whole other younger generation because they don't want to pay, which is fine. I get it. But they can watch it for free. They just got to watch commercials, and that's that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a whole new level of access. Or there's like, Netflix or Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime apparently have just flushed out. They had people just uploading random content, and I think it got out of control, and they just said, you know what, stop it all, and pretty much got rid of all their independent documentaries, just gone.
Mm-hmm.
They did a purge. and that was right around the time that we were negotiating with them. So we still have the transactional download where you can pay to see it, but they had like this whole Amazon Prime membership, and people could, and that, I think that was, I don't know, 65 million plus, maybe. It was a lot. But that, we'll see what happens with that getting back online. But yeah, there's Tubi and there's YouTube and Vimeo and Netflix. There's just a whole slew, and then I got all the cable networks around the world. So anyway, it's just changed. A lot has changed since the last big UFO film I put out.
Now, back to the UAP Task Force report.
Yes.
So much of the large swath of the community was expecting disclosure. I mean, of the big D. That's it. Talking about, pushing your chips into the middle of the table, where they were, and I can only imagine the emotional investment that so many people had waiting for this, that there was going to be an ET component in this report, which obviously wasn't there. It
wasn't there, but it also wasn't not there.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
But that's not enough.
I mean, it wasn't like they didn't just close the door on it. They could have just closed the door on it and said, we can say definitively that it's not extraterrestrial or alien or, but it's like, okay, we can't rule that out. We're not going to sit there and say, and a lot of times it comes down to a measly headline. I don't know. There was something the other day that there was a big report that came out, and I was so frustrated with the headline. I was like, wait a minute, that's the wrong headline. And I was so frustrated. I actually posted something on my Facebook account. I was like, no, that's the wrong headline. It should be this. And I actually called Leslie Kane, and I was like, Leslie, what is this headline? This doesn't make any sense. And she's like, I know, it's crazy. I don't know who wrote the headline. And they actually changed it. They didn't get the cue from me. I'm sure that enough people complained, but it was like, look, you can't say definitively it's extraterrestrial, but you can't say it's not. That's the thing that kind of matters, sometimes like the whole headline. So I don't know, am I a little frustrated? Of course I am. Would I like to see more?
But what's your message? But what's your message to the community that didn't get that ET component?
My message is, let's not focus on what wasn't. Let's focus on what was and be happy about that, because believe me, as someone who's been doing this for, quite some time now, we really are in uncharted waters. And I think it's very exciting. And would I like to see more? Of course I would. And am I a little disappointed? Of course I am. But look, man, it's like I said, focus on what was and less on what wasn't. And let's continue holding their feet to the fire. I recognize that, you only have the spotlight on you, and a number of us have the spotlight right now. Some more than others, but doesn't matter. We're all in this together. Is to keep pushing hard. Now is not the time to put my feet up. I'm doing a turnaround with Virginia. There's been a lot of talk of recovered debris. Well, that's one case where it's extremely credible reports of recovered debris and bodies. There's been murmurings of that in the New York Times and New Yorker and other interviews. My God, what was that one podcast that Harry Reid even talked about? I think the guy said to him, like, well, what about, recovered debris and stuff? And you'd think someone of Harry Reid's stature would have just shut him down, but he didn't. It was like he left that door open. It's like, so I'm going to focus pushing really hard on tracking some of this stuff down. Whether I actually get my hands on it or not, that's another story, but at least finding out where it went. I think some of it went back to the United States. But just to keep the pressure on, keep shining a light on the phenomenon. I'm doing that film. I'm also, I haven't really made the announcement, but I'm also working on a sequel to the phenomenon, coupled with the other thing that I'm doing. So believe me, I promise you, I might be a little quiet lately, but I can assure you that I'm keeping the foot firmly pressed on the accelerator pedal.
Well,
taking a Yeah, sorry.
Staying on, and I'm looking at the clock here. We got a break in like 3 minutes, and we can pick up when we come back.
Sorry.
But going back to the recovered craft component of all of this, this is not a United States phenomenon. I mean, that's just an obvious statement. But when something may crash in Canada or Australia or Guatemala or Chile or Brazil, do you suspect that the United States has got their tendons into talons, into all of these countries that are, our allies, and we immediately deploy a team and spirit this stuff back to the United States?
Well, what I can say is every country I've been to or foreigner that I've discussed, including generals and colonels in cases all across the world, including Tehran, when I interviewed what was the Iranian pilot, Parviz Jafari.
Yes.
That there is a U.S. component to it, whether they're questioning the witnesses and trying to obtain evidence, or outright intimidating the witnesses. I've heard that, and I've heard it with both civilian and with the local military. So there's definitely and has been and continues to be a presence in all these different countries from the U.S. And I've seen it personally. I've personally talked to the witnesses that have shared this information with me, time and time and time again. So it's like people say, "Oh, well, the ATIP or the new UAP Task Force, it's amazing that the Pentagon is investigating UFOs." And look, they never stopped. Believe me, they didn't, because I was talking to a general in Belgium. I was talking to a general in Tehran who told me about a U.S. presence in 1976, boots on the ground from Deputy Base Commander Charles Holt was telling me an unknown government agency, U.S., showed up in England. Everywhere. Africa, I mean, there was a presence of the U.S. Embassy in the Rua case. Certainly in Virginia, I was talked to the mother of two young women at the time who had men in suits show up at her place, intimidating her. So yeah, there has been and continues to be, and I'm getting the impression that when there's solid evidence, that tends to get whisked off and back to the United States. Can I prove that right now? No, I cannot. Am I going to try and prove it? I'm going to do my best, yes.
This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, James Fox is here. He's taking his UFO Victory Lap. You see how I just did the reset, James? That's what 60 Minutes didn't do. We'll be right back after this short break.
I like it.
Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, James Fox takes his UFO Victory Lap. More with James in just a second. I want to talk to you about Virtual Shield VPN, as I do every night on the show at this time. Virtual Shield VPN. Everybody today needs their own VPN. Yesterday, I went live with Christina Gomez. She's great. And I felt secure knowing that Virtual Shield was protecting me, my location, everything, because everybody is listening to her show. But nobody knows where I am. I can come from a secure, undisclosed location, thanks to Virtual Shield. Nobody knows where I am. Nobody knows my search history. Nobody knows what I'm clicking on as I bounce around all of these conspiracy subjects. That's it. That's what I do. Because Virtual Shield has a strict no logs policy. That's it. Nobody knows my search history. Encrypted servers all around the world. That's what you need to do today. This is the world we live in. Everybody needs their own VPN. It's all simple to do. You can click on the link in the video description box below. You can head over to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on the links over there. You can also type in virtualshield.com/fade to black. All of that will get you Virtual Shield today for 50% off. Everybody needs their own VPN, including James Fox. He's always in an undisclosed location like he is right now. He even said to me earlier today, he said, Jimmy, I need 12 minutes. I've got to go into my skiff. I've got I've got
you gave me 14.
Yes. You've got yourself a cage, you know, you're enclosed. But, you know, and that's a weird situation, James, where if you go back to 1995, you know, AOL, the internet is starting to come out, and, you know, we had our dial-up modems and things. But everybody was typing in UFOs, right? Some were typing in porn. But for me, it was UFOs. And that is what the world is interested in today, and including, you know, like with the FBI, their vault, the number one search term on the FBI website is UFOs. And we didn't know back then in 1995 that today how important the internet would become, but how open you are to everybody else out there. You've really got to watch your toes today with the internet and censorship and what you speak about and search terms and words. Did you ever think it would get this crazy in the world of UFOs?
No, it's really funny because I was trying to write a letter. You'll get the relevance of this in a second, but I was in a public library in Chicago in the late 90s, and I was trying to get a letter written to then President Clinton on the topic of UFOs for a film I was working on, which actually the letter's included in the film Out of the Blue. And I punched in the address in a public library at a university. It was US White House.com or something like that. The typical address you'd go to do that, to get to the White House. And a porn site popped up. And it was one of those things where it's like, it popped up, and then all these other windows are popping up, and I can't even close them. I'm in a public library. Like, it was so embarrassing. But someone had purchased us.gov.com or something like this, and it was a porn site. And I was like, Jesus. I'm trying to reach the president, and people are like looking at me. I'm like, Anyway, it's kind of embarrassing.
You are, right?
I know. No, it's totally true. But that was at the time when .com was, people were just getting hip. Like if you were Coca-Cola or you were the White House or you were whoever, to buy up all the different domain names, all the different variations of those names, because people had the foresight to do that, and then made a lot of money.
The other side of this is with.
I got a letter from President Clinton, by the way.
You did?
Well, from the White House, yes, I did. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, back in the 90s.
Did he sign it, Bill?
It basically said that it was kind of cool. It was the White House, and it said that thank you for your inquiry, with NASA and everything else, that we don't have the definitive proof that you can read it in Out of the Blue, that UFOs are related to aliens, or that they're not explainable by something. But it wasn't like they don't exist, go sell crazy somewhere else. It was like, wow, they actually gave me something of a little substance. I was kind of impressed. Yeah, and they sent me off to NASA, and of course, people are like, oh, well, NASA's involved today with UFOs and the UAP Task Force. NASA was involved during the Carter administration. He got NASA involved. I don't know to what level, or if he got shunned on it or not, but they were definitely involved. Carter had asked them to do that. So, yeah, anyway, I'm seeing a little bit of the past, repeat itself.
Speaking of letters, there are rumors out there that there is a letter written to somebody you may know from Steven Spielberg confirming certain things. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I have a letter from Steven Spielberg, but my letter is not that. I don't know if your audience will find it interesting or not, but I have a letter. Are you referring to that?
I might be.
Okay, so...
Are you squirming? Is this something that you can talk about?
Well, yeah. So when I finished I Know What I Saw, I had a screening at CNN at the executive producer for Larry King Live, Wendy Walker, at her home in Southern California. And it was all kind of exciting, and they were like, oh, we're so excited this movie, it's so compelling, and I Know What I Saw is a pretty good doc. I was relatively happy with it. Long story short, Larry King ends up, contacting Spielberg and says, hey, there's this it's the real life Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Would you like to check it out? And Spielberg says, yes. And so Larry King sent my doc to Steven Spielberg, which was kind of cool. And I didn't hear anything. I got a call from CAA a couple days later, and it was a woman named Jacqueline Cesario. She was a rep at CAA.
CAA, everybody is one of the biggest talent agencies in the world.
Yes. So she called me, and I didn't know her, and she's like, James Fox? Yeah. She said, I just want you to know, and she was kind of giddy, I want you to know that Steven Spielberg is about to watch a movie. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, he's going to go watch your movie right now. It's very exciting. I was like, wow, okay. God, I can't believe it. So I called my dad, and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. I was like, Dad, you're not going to believe this. Steven Spielberg's watching my movie, like, right now. He's like, now? I said, yeah, now. So I went down to my dad's house. We had a cup of tea together, and we were like, it was just a weird feeling knowing that Steven Spielberg was looking at my movie. And a couple hours go by, and I get another call from CAA, again, from Jacqueline Cesario, and she says, Spielberg watched your movie. I said, well, great. What did he say? She said, he didn't say anything. I said, what do you mean he didn't say anything? She goes, he didn't. He wrote a letter. I said, he wrote a letter? Wrote a letter to who? She wrote a letter to Larry King. I said, what did it say? She goes, I don't know. I said, that's it? She's like, yeah, he watched it all by himself. I was like, okay. So I was like, sitting there like feeling kind of like, God, I'd love to know some more. So I get probably like 2 or 3 days later, I get a call from Abrielle Gallagher, one of the producers at Larry King Live. She's like, James, I got a letter from Steven Spielberg about your movie. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I got it in my hands. I was like, well, what does it say? She's like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to send it to you. It's like, oh, my God. You're killing me.
Right.
So I was like, you're killing me. So I get the letter FedExed from L.A. to my house. And I live in a small town. Everybody knows everybody. I know the FedEx driver. FedEx driver shows up the next morning. He's giddy. She's like, James, you're not going to believe this. He's like, I said, what? He goes, you got a FedEx package from Larry King. I'm like, cool. Guess what? He's like, what? I go, it's a letter from Steven Spielberg about my movie. He goes, oh my God, can I stay and what? Can I see what it says? I said, yeah. So we both opened it out of my driveway, and I read it, and it was from Steven Spielberg, signed his name, his letterhead, everything. And it was basically like Steven saying, dear Larry, with great curiosity, I watched the film that you sent and found it compelling. Unfortunately, even though he'd based a lot of his movies on the extraterrestrial theme, he himself had never seen a UFO, and how unfair that was. And then he said, I hope you continue to cover this topic on your shows. I watch them frequently, and that the government will disclose the true natures and origins of the phenomenon, something like that. It was kind of cool. So at the time, I had sorry.
No, go ahead and finish, because I think my next question.
Well, no. So at the time, it was like, my distributor was saying, my God, you have a letter from Steven Spielberg about your movie, basically calling it compelling. Do you have any idea what that would do for the marketing aspect of it? So I contacted his publicity guy. His name will come to me in a minute. And I said, I introduced myself, and I said, hey, he goes, no, we don't endorse document. No, we don't do that. I said, well, actually, Spielberg already did it. I have the letter. And he got all worried. He's like, you have a letter? I said, yeah, I got it. He goes, well, how'd you get it? I said, I got it from Larry King. I have the letter. And he asked me not to go public with it, which I was really, really upset about, And my dad at the time was like, possession is 9/10 the law, son.
Certainly is.
But I was like, and I was like, oh. And anyway, I sat on it for like 10 years. And, the difference it would have made for me, not just financially, but just like, because I never do any of this stuff for the money. Is it nice to make money doing what you love? Of course it is. But it's not what propels me. It's not what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's not why I chose this path. Because I'm an incredibly curious person, and I'm fascinated with the topic. And I think that people have a right to know about what's going on. That's what excites me. But that letter would have really got the attention of mainstream on my film, and unfortunately that didn't happen, and I didn't violate his wishes, and I was like, oh well, screw it, and so I just sat on that damn letter, which would have been a gold mine for the promotional purposes, right? So anyway,
well,
yeah,
do you feel?
I have it framed on my wall in my office.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Do you feel? Certainly with Spielberg and the subjects of his film, from the beginning, right? He has, if not every film.
I can tell you something else. I could tell you something else about Spielberg, but carry on.
Well, that's my question, though. Is he in the know? Certainly, they watched, Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the White House with Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
His subjects are very direct, and his comment in your letter about maybe the government will disclose, right?
Yes.
That says something.
No, I have more, which I will share with you.
Please.
So, I won't reveal the gentleman's name who gave this to me, but I can say he's unimpeachable. His credentials are as good as it gets. He is very, very high up in the entertainment industry. He's a good friend of mine. He's been incredibly influential, pulling strings behind the scenes for me for over a decade and a half. He's a known powerhouse in the entertainment industry, very well respected, very successful. And he's been quietly and discreetly pulling strings for me. And I one day said to him, why do you help me? Why have you been so kind to me? And he told me two stories. He told me one story about, I'm trying to think of the guy's name that he had it'll come to me. He's a famous actor. He was in that Pool Shark movie with, what am I drawing the blank on his name right now? But in any case, there was one story about Jackie Gleason.
Oh, Jackie Gleason. Right. Okay.
And Jackie Gleason, he knew Jackie Gleason, and Jackie Gleason pulled him aside one time, and he's like, I heard this from Jackie Gleason's mouth. Don't ever believe what anyone tells you that UFOs aren't real. I've had 100% confirmation. They're absolutely real. And that stayed with him. And then the other thing was, he said that he spoke directly to Spielberg after Spielberg had screened, I think it was E.T. at the White House, but to be honest with you, it could have been Close Encounters. I don't remember. It was one of the two.
Right.
And he said that Spielberg, some comments were made with the president, then Reagan. But on top of that, there was an unknown fellow in a suit, clearly working with the government, who slipped him an envelope. And in that envelope was a photograph of either the beam or the crash debris at Roswell. I think it was the beam, that's what he told me. And my contact said to Spielberg, well, what did you do with it? He said, I have it in a vault in my home. He's like, are you ever going to go public with it? He said, no, I'm not. But he has that. And I can tell you that this source of mine never in a million years would make this story up. I absolutely, unequivocally believe him. And if you knew who he was, you'd believe him too. So I just can't reveal his name because he wouldn't want that. But yeah, that's what he told me. So yeah, so Spielberg definitely has had, he knows what's going on. I mean,
Yeah, it's because of his content. And you look at it, over the life of, it's just been an incredible career, but he keeps going back and tipping his toe in the water, right? And in a very fascinating way.
I wonder if Spielberg has watched The Phenomenon. I tried to get a copy to him.
Right.
I think that he would because, Steven Spielberg is the one indirectly who told me about the Rua case. Because back in the 90s, when I was working on my first UFO film, 50 Years of Denial, which Tim Crawford, UFO TV, after Discovery Channel aired it on the Learning Channel, he's been distributing it. It's a nice little piece, whatever. But I was working on that piece in the 90s, and I was just naive enough at the time to think I can get an interview with Spielberg. And we had a mutual friend, this woman, Janet Yang, and she got back to me, and she's like, yeah, he's not going to meet with you, but he does want you to know. It was like 97 probably at the time. Yeah, it was like 1997. He does want you to know that a couple of years ago there was a landing case in Africa. And apparently it was a close encounter of the third kind at a school or whatever. And I just thought, no, yeah, right, sure. I kind of had the same reaction. I've learned from all the times that I've poo-pooed some of these stories, like to suspend judgment and review the evidence before I just quickly dismiss it, because you just can't imagine that something of that magnitude could occur in broad daylight and the whole world not know about it. And it just, I don't know, and so I just dismissed it. But I'd heard about that Brewer case, and of course we feature that case quite well in the phenomenon. So that makes me think that maybe he has watched it, but I don't know.
Well, why don't you and I we'll get the DVD, right? Let's go to his house at Zuma Beach, and we just throw it over the gate. I've been there.
We'll give him a Blu-ray.
Yeah,
make a special Blu-ray just for him.
Absolutely, man. We'll just throw it over the fence. There's no guard gate there. We can drive right up. But
I had a mutual friend. We have a mutual friend in common. Then I think it was his dad that died recently. Maybe it was late. Maybe it was probably last year. So that was kind of a tough time to approach him on anything. So, but yeah, I might. I'll work on it. I will. I'll work on it.
Some of the other breaking stories that have surfaced over the last few weeks, and I know you've been on vacation and probably a little disconnected, but I'm going to throw this out there. Maybe you've heard about it, but Lou Elizondo on this program and last week, and also we did a live event over the weekend, and I did a 2-hour sit down with Lou. So I've done a couple of shows with him over the last week, and he is talking about a 23-minute UFO video, his words, and that is crystal clear and definitive. 23 minutes. Have you heard about this video?
Well, first of all, I love Lou, and it's funny actually because I spent time with him in Wyoming. It was a wonderful, just magical time with him. I just so much respect for that man, and I saw personally what he's been going through in getting this whole thing out, and the compromise he's made with his family and his financial security and his wife. Like I talked to his wife about the things that he's been going through and being judged and called a charlatan. And it's like, he's like, I'm risking everything. I quit my job, my financial security for my family. And I'm getting all this criticism. He's like, is it even worth it? Like, do people even care that I'm making all these sacrifices? The guy is just like amazing. I mean, I saw it firsthand. I hung out with him. I went to his house. It's like, but he had told me about, some of the things, not in great detail, obviously, because it's classified, but some of the great things that he, saw as part of ATIP at the Pentagon. That, he basically looked at me and just imagine crystal clear, totally in focus, very long. That's the kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, what's it going to take to get this stuff out of there? Because I've heard it from lots of other people too, Remember, I've been hearing this for a while. I mean, I've interviewed Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper, who told me about the footage of a landed flying saucer on the dry lake bed at Edwards Air Force Base circa 1957 when I interviewed him in the 90s. So I know that the government's been in possession of the videos that people like Neil deGrasse Tyson will stop making fun of, right?
Right.
I just want to get the stuff out. So it doesn't surprise me that he's talking about that now, because I have been to his house and he did share, cautiously indicate that there were some things that were very compelling, very clear and focused and all that stuff. Everything that we want.
The disclosure of this, where I want to see them, you want to see, everybody wants to see them, but what's the danger for the government, the repercussions, if they reveal knowledge that goes back 20, 30, 40 years? My comment is, if they release a video, it better be taken yesterday. Because if they are sitting on stuff that goes back 20, 30, 40 years, and that leaks, that is going to show to everybody that they probably have been in possession of technology that really could have helped this planet, right? Feed people and electricity and solve a lot of our issues worldwide. And I think that would anger quite, potentially billions of people.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been hearing about it, for decades, and that's been incredibly frustrating. You hear about, you interview a witness military witness, who says, like, I personally handled this footage. I saw it. I handled it. It disappeared. It's like, that's the kind of stuff that everyone's complaining that it's missing, and that stuff has a strange way of going missing. You know what I mean? But I did hear from somebody who saw it, who will remain nameless, but who saw it, knows it exists, and he described it to me. And he said it was a triangular-shaped craft. I believe he said it was a video, but it could be a photograph of a triangular-shaped craft coming out of the ocean. And it went from sea level to 80,000 feet, like in the blink of an eye, vertically, straight up. But it was shaped like a triangle. And that we have a crystal clear picture or video. I believe he said picture, but it could have been a video. And that he had personally seen it. And they were desperately trying to get that released as well. And it's interesting. It's like, okay, so they found some loopholes and snuck some of the stuff out. Have you noticed that the stuff that's out didn't get officially released? It got officially acknowledged once it was released. But remember, Chris admits, I got a phone call from Leslie Kane when she watched the screener of the movie, and she went, Chris revealed that he was responsible or one of the people responsible for getting that footage out of the Pentagon. I was like, yeah. She goes, he doesn't talk about that normally. He revealed it in the phenomenon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's basically like, yeah, we bent the rules a little bit. We found a loophole. We got it out. Jeremy Corbell has gotten hold of some footage through some of his contacts. And they've acknowledged that it's official footage, but they haven't taken the steps of them personally making the effort and release. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we find ways to find loopholes to get it out, legally or illegally, and then they confirm and kind of play catch up. Yes, that's real. Yes, it's legit. Oh, and by the way, here's, you know what I mean? But it's like they haven't had the impetus of getting ahead of it and releasing it. So what will it take for the task force to do that? Like, we've had to find it and get it out there.
Well,
it's a civilian effort.
Yeah, but this is the big but with all of that. All of the leaks that went through Corbell didn't show crap, right? None of that was definitive of anything, right? Now, for the government to say it's official, it's real video, well, yeah, it's real video, but it doesn't show anything. It doesn't show anything at all. It could be anything. And so leaking that and getting it out there, labeling it whatever you want to label it, flying pyramids, flying toasters, whatever, but it doesn't it doesn't show anything. This other stuff, the definitive, the triangle coming out of the ocean. We've heard the rumors of this, certainly. Where is that photograph? Where
I would love nothing more than to figure out a way. Obviously, I know that everybody else would as well, but obviously, I'm not going to put. There was a film, and I got to make an announcement. By the way, I don't know. You got to give me a minute and let me know, because I've got a kind of an exciting announcement. I think it's exciting. Your audience might not feel it's exciting, but I think it's pretty exciting. But let me say that there was a film that was done in the 70s called UFOs Past, Present, or Future.
Yep.
It was Alan Sandler and Robert Emenegger.
Yep.
Robert Emenegger unfortunately passed, I think, 6 months ago, something like that. I got an extensive interview with him on camera for the phenomenon. It unfortunately didn't make it into it. But what I was trying to find was they had talked about a landing case in the film at Holloman Air Force Base. And I think it was right around the time of Socorro, and Socorro was a stone's throw. Socorro is the case involving the police officer in 1964 in Socorro, New Mexico, Lonnie Zamora, and it was one of the most well-documented close encounters of the third kind in U.S. history. The military was on the scene, and it was investigated by Blue Book. It was a kind of a turning point for Hynek. But in any case, just a stone's throw away, Holloman Air Force Base, White Sands Testing Range, there was a report of a landing there that was filmed. Speaking of evidence.
Well, let's I've got to take a break, and when we come back, we'll pick up with Bob Emenegger. The UFOs Past, Present, and Future, I've watched that thing 30, 40 times. It's still an amazing film, and what a great backstory. We'll be right back. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, James Fox takes his UFO Victory Lap. Well deserved. Well deserved. Great conversation tonight. And right before the break, James, I'm going to do a reset. Something that the folks over at 60 Minutes could learn, because we're talking about the great UFO documentary that Bob Eben. This is the thing about Bob, James, that he went on an Easter egg hunt, right? Of epic biblical proportions. And I know, I'm hoping that what you're going to talk about is this reel of film, and that Bob was promised. I believe this came from the White House, if I'm right here, that this reel of film was going to be included in UFOs past, present, and future. And there's a little side note to this. Many years ago, James and I were talking about Bob, and I had said, I got to get Bob on the show. And we were going to put that together, James. You were going to help me with that. And then, things, get sideways. You're in the middle of making movies. I'm doing my stuff, and we let it get away from us. And now Bob has gone on to bigger and better things. And I never got a chance to interview Bob Emenegger, one of the crucial components in UFO history. But going back, that's a little side note to all of this. Going back to Bob, and not only this documentary, UFOs Past, Present, and Future, which again it should be on everybody's watch list, and the chasing of this, it's like chasing a snuff film, right? I mean, it's exactly, and what he went through. So continue. I'm hoping this is about that reel of film.
It is. So I'm talking to Bob about, Angela Joyner, bless her heart. She got COVID and passed. She was a real pioneer in the old Stephenville UFO case.
Certainly.
Well, Angela had, I won't go into great detail because I'll just get to the point here, but Angela had pointed out the fact that one of the producers of that show, Alan Sandler, had footage. And it all started out with like a deathbed statement by this guy, Colonel Weinbrenner. And during production, Alan Sandler and Robert Emenegger had unprecedented access to all these military bases. And during one of their visits for the filming of the doc, they were at Wright Pat. And at Wright Pat, they met with this Colonel Weinbrenner in his office, and Robert Emenegger walked up to him in his office, and he said, "Hey, what about Roswell? Did we recover stuff from Roswell?" And Robert goes, "He was so weird. He just started to walk away from me, and he started talking about some photographs of Russian jets on the wall."
It was
the darndest thing.
And a little bit more to this. Bob said he kind of freaked out. Bob freaks out because of what this colonel is suddenly doing. Like maybe they were listening, right? There were microphones in his office.
That's exactly what Robert concluded. But so what happened was 30, 40 years later, Colonel Weinberger on his deathbed, and he tells this nurse, "Hey, you got to get this message to this guy, Robert Emenegger." She's like, "What?" And he says, "Tell him that, basically some crashes occurred," or something like this. Basically answers the question that he'd asked 40 years earlier. So anyway, I'm kind of looking into this deathbed confession thing here. And Angela says, "Oh, you're investigating that case?" She goes, "Oh, I looked into that too." Alan Sandler, who's one of the producers of the show, is sitting on UFO footage. And I said, "How do you know?" She said, "I know he is. I know it." And I said, "Well, I just happen to be talking to them right now on this thing that, this experience that Robert had." She goes, "Well, you talk to Alan Sandler about it." So anyway, I give Alan a call, and we're talking. And he said, before I talk to you at all, you need to go and watch and read my book. So I read the book. I watched the doc, talking, and all this is going down. I'm talking with Robert, Emenegger, and I said, Robert, what that footage that you guys talk about in the film, that it may have happened, or it might have happened already, or it may happen in the future, about a landing at Holloman Air Force Base, in which case the flying saucer door opens and out comes these aliens that make contact with the base commanders. And he said, Robert's like, and Robert's a credible guy. And he's like, I think that happened. I said, you think it happened? What do you mean you think it happened? He said, well, our contact, Paul Chartle, at Norton Air Force Base, handled the footage. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He swore up and down it was not from us. We filmed a landing of a disc. I'm thinking to myself, boy, this sounds crazy. But I'm investigating Socorro's a stone's throw right around the same period, and that was a close encounter of the third kind. And if it happened at the base, maybe they did have cameras rolling. So maybe it really did happen. So anyway, I'm talking to Alan Sandler about this, and he's a lot more, he's odd. He's an odd duck. I think Stanton Friedman told me that Alan had connections to the CIA. That's what Stanton told me, because when Stanton got paid for some appearance he did with Alan, it came from a known CIA source. That's what Stanton told me. And Stanton's not a paranoid guy. He's a very grounded, pragmatic, data-driven scientist. So I listened to Stanton. Anyway, so I'm talking to Alan Sandler, and I'll never forget this. I'm driving in my car, talking to the cell phone about this footage, and he goes, oh, I saw it. I said, well, wait a minute. What? Alan says, yeah, I saw it. Paul Chartle showed it to me. I said, well, hold on a second. I pulled the car over to the side of the road. I was in Simpson Beach. And I closed my eyes, because I do that when I really want to remember something. I have the words recreate in my head. And I closed my eyes and said, excuse me, Alan, what are you saying exactly? He said, Paul Chartle showed me the landing footage at Holloman. I said,
what?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Swear to God. I said, oh, okay, well, tell me more. So, like I said, I had my eyes closed. I had the engine off. I'm sitting like in some weird, I just pulled the hell over. Sitting in the car. I said, what did you see? He said, well, he showed it to me when Robert wasn't there that day filming at, I believe it was Norton Air Force Base in California. And he played this thing for me. And he said, you saw 3 disc-shaped objects up in the sky filming from the ground, up in the sky, 3 of them. And they're flying towards the base. And said there was jets escorting them. So there were military jets flying along with them. And then 2 of the discs peel away, and 1 wobbles down onto the base. And I said, what do you mean by wobbling? He said, well, it looked like it was either in trouble, or it looked like a leaf that was descending on its own with just the gravity and wind, right? So it was just kind of coming down, wobbling kind of back and forth. That's what he described it like. He said, then it landed. Landing gear came out, and it landed. And then he said, and I'll quote, just like in a sci-fi movie, a door opened, but it was seamless. There were no seams. It just opened and and I think he said a staircase came out. 2 beings got out, and they were wearing, this is what Alan Sandler told me. He saw it. I said, was the camera on sticks? He said, yes. That means they're anticipating. That means their camera was on a tripod, so it was steady. So they know this thing was coming in. Why would they have a camera on the grounds of the base on a tripod? You have to be ready to film if you've got a tripod ready, right?
Right. So
they're filming this thing, and it's sitting on the ground, and 2 beings come out, and they flank the staircase, and then a 3rd one comes out, and he had like a large, very large nose, tight-fitting suit on. He said he had like a thing in his hand that he assumed, that he didn't know, but he assumed that it was some sort of communication device, translator, whatever. Little slits for mouths, and I believe he said the eyes were vertical like cats. And he had a big hair regalia on. Alan swore up and down that he saw this. Now, Alan said, I think it was a special effect, and that it was one of our own flying saucers. The flying saucer was real. It landed, but I think people dressed up or something. And I said, well, wait a minute, the flying saucer was real. He said, yeah, it was probably one of our flying saucers. Well, in any case, Alan didn't really know, but he just was like kind of neutral about the whole thing. But I spoke at length with Robert Emenegger on camera, which I have that interview. I have recordings that I did with Alan Sandler, and he probably is listening to me right now, knowing that guy, on audio of him talking about audio only, of him talking about him seeing the footage. And then I have an extended interview I did with William Coleman. William Coleman, I believe at the time, in the 70s during production, was at the Pentagon. He was a public spokesman. He was Colonel Coleman. And I have interviews with Colonel Coleman because apparently Colonel Coleman is the one that called all the different military bases and said, this team is filming a doc, cooperate with them. And so when Paul Charles got that message, he just assumed that everything was open. When Paul Charles showed that footage to Alan Sandler the very next day, they put the clamps down, that footage disappeared, and they were ordered never to talk about it ever again. So Alan didn't even tell Robert Emenegger for 40 years, and that he'd seen the footage. And Emenegger told me that that Paul Charles, who ended up getting killed in a head-on collision with his wife in the 80s in a car, swore up and down that footage was legitimate, and it was not of this earth. They were beings from another world. So that's like, so Alan, who's now in his 80s, has promised me in the past, he's got some other footage that he's promised that he would share, and then I got the money together, and then he's got cold feet or whatever happened. But he promised me that we could go after some of that footage. But every time I reach out to him, he always makes some excuse about how he's so busy. But he's in his 80s now, so I'm worried this guy's gonna, I've been trying to get somebody to go meet with him, and because he says, I kind of know where this stuff is. You have to know where it is to get access to it within the Pentagon, but it's there. But if you'll never find it unless you know where to look. So I'm like, okay, well, help me look for it, And so I've been kind of quietly going after, but you only have so much time and energy and resource. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus, can I chase this until I die? Probably. Is there a chance that it exists? Well, I'm convinced it exists. Could I definitively tell your audience right now that it's of alien origin? No, but I can tell you it's extremely compelling, and I didn't believe it when I first heard about it. But after extensive talks with Alan Sandler and Robert Emenegger, and hearing, actually Robert Emenegger sent me a clip of Paul Charles being interviewed on a TV show in the early 80s. And he says unequivocally, this footage he got and he processed it was not of this world.
Now, so, did Bob Emenegger never saw the footage?
Nope. Bob Emenegger never saw it, and he never knew that Alan Sandler saw it. He found out because I got a three-way call, which might be recorded, actually. I got a three-way call while I was in Florida after I'd filmed with Colonel Coleman. Colonel Coleman is now deceased, but I called Colonel Coleman I was with Colonel Coleman in Florida at a restaurant, on the way to the restaurant, when I called Robert Emenegger, and we had a three-way conversation about it, and I also called Alan Sandler about it with Robert Emenegger. So I've talked about it, and then I drilled Colonel Coleman about it, and Colonel Coleman, because he was given the go-ahead, he would call these bases and say, cooperate with these guys. They're doing this documentary. Work with them. And they had this incredible access. I mean, if you look at that movie, you look at what they're doing, that was in the 70s. That was remarkable.
Yeah, walking around the Pentagon and all of that stuff is pretty incredible. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Totally incredible.
Now, but let me go back to Alan Sandler for a second. So he's the one that has seen the footage. And
he saw it, yes.
Now, he says a couple of interesting things to you. I want to expand on it. We only have a few minutes before we're done.
And I have to make an announcement. I just need 30 seconds. So just don't let me forget.
Okay. Cool. All right. Hold on. Let me write that down. Announcement, 30 seconds. That's all you get, James. Okay.
Okay, good.
30.
I'll make the most of it. I'll get 25 seconds.
But he said that the craft landed. Okay, so here we have this incredible moment, but he says that maybe the craft was ours, and he said, and he mentioned special effects. Now he knows film.
He said, so he said that the film was not manipulated in any way, that it was a legitimate UFO. It was a legitimate flying saucer. And he said, just like in the sci-fi movies, the door was seamless. There were no seams. It just opened. And he was shocked by that. Like, I could tell that would left an impression on him. And then I said, so you saw aliens or beings from another world? He goes, well, it could have been a stage for an incident of something that may happen in the future, like kind of a preparation video. But that would imply that we were in possession of flying saucers back in 1972 or 74, whatever year that was.
Mm-hmm.
And Colonel Coleman swore up and down we did not have anything like that today, nor do we have it back then, period. And Colonel Coleman himself had a dramatic encounter with a flying saucer back in 1955 over Alabama, which we feature in the film.
Right.
But Colonel Coleman was just like, and he kept saying stuff like, oh, Colonel Coleman, I got us all, I have it all on video. He's like, oh, we had a stealth, fighter land at the base. We had like, no, I was like, Colonel Coleman, why do you keep going to a stealth fighter? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a flying saucer. It's like, you're confusing the two. I'm like, you're trying to like obfuscate or something, because you're sitting there on the one hand, I said this all on camera. You're on the one hand telling me that you had this dramatic encounter with a flying saucer. Okay. Alan Sandler said he saw the same flying saucer that you saw, same description, but on video that landed at Holloman Air Force Base. Oh, that was a stealth fighter. I'm like, was the flying saucer that you saw in 1955 a stealth fighter? Oh, no, that was a flying saucer. Well, okay. Well, what I'm trying to tell you is that the flying saucer that Alan Sandler described seeing on film was a flying. Oh, we don't have any of that technology. He was just kind of going round and round like that. You know what I mean?
I do. It's how frustrating is that?
And then my camera guy looked at me and he goes, man, you're hammering this guy. He's like 89 years old or maybe 90 years old. He's like, lighten up. Like I was really laying into him because I wanted to get a straight answer, and he kept not giving me a straight answer. But at the end of the day, I couldn't tell you. I can tell you this. I believe, based on the video interview I've seen with Paul Chartle, that film and the discussions I had non-public with Alan Sandler, who saw it, and my interview with Robert Emmenegger, who spoke at length with with this guy, Paul Chartle, at Norton Air Force Base about the footage that disappeared.
It sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or Alan's, but it sounds like Alan was cool with it until he saw the beings.
Alan's weird. He's an odd duck. He's also sitting on footage of an Atlas rocket launch at Vandenberg Air Force Base.
The famous.
It's labeled top secret.
Right.
That was given to, well, not the famous one. This one didn't fire it out of the sky, but they didn't fire anything at it, but I think it was a couple of disc-shaped objects that circled the thing as it flew from two different camera angles. And it was given to him by Quintanilla. Did I pronounce his name? Hector Quintanilla, who is
Project Blue Book.
Thank you, yes. And he sat on it. He was going to use it in the doc, UFOs Past, Present, and Future, and at the last minute, Quintanilla asked them not to. And so he sat. I said, well, what do you do with it? He's like, I've got it downstairs in my basement. I've got two, I think it was 16 millimeter film rolls. One was at close range, and the other one was longer range. And they both showed the same thing. He was going to sell it to me. I think it was like $20,000. And then I got all the money lined up. And the guy that was putting up the money at the time was like, well, can we see it first before we put up the money? And Alan was like, oh, no, I definitely want, we'll put the money in an escrow account. You guys come up here. I'll show you the footage. If it's not everything I said it was going to be, then you walk away and done deal. But I had to get the money in an escrow account. Well, I got it all lined up to happen. And then he pulled it out and he said, well, my lawyer says I'm doing really well. I don't need the money. What am I doing taking chances, revealing government, secrets? I could be in trouble. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm not. I said, what are you going to do? Die with it in your basement? Like seriously? And then he was like, well, I know where to find these things. These are the kind of things that people don't realize that never make it into the movie. All the efforts on the stuff that I didn't get. but that I know probably exists. And that's incredibly frustrating because, you look at it like a video of a Tic Tac, and it's like, is it impressive? Yeah,
Yeah.
But when you know that what else they've got, not really impressive.
Now, and going back to UFOs past, present, and future, weren't they allowed to show? They showed a few frames, a few seconds of the UFO, but not the landing, only it coming in.
Well, so I addressed that with Robert, and Robert swore up and down, and so does Alan, that's not the case, that it was all special effects.
Oh.
I know, because I was like, oh, there's a few seconds in there. Not according to them, there isn't.
Well, but that's what they say, the narrator in the film. Who narrates the film?
Oh, it was that guy from Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, it was Rod Serling. Yeah, that's right.
Rod Serling, thank you, yep.
And, okay, well, I was going to go watch it again tonight. just for that few seconds of footage.
Of the beans. But you have to remember that film was carefully combed through. Every single word was carefully crafted and approved by the military, okay? And you listen very carefully to that segment of the film, and they say this incident may occur or may have already occurred.
Right. Yes.
The way they say it. It's really interesting. It's like, okay, every word of that was carefully crafted and approved. And if you listen to the way they say that, it's like, wow. Because you think, like, what's the likelihood of the U.S. government having footage? Then, of course, you've got all these other stories that stemmed from that, like, Eisenhower meeting with aliens. It's like, when I talk about Eisenhower meeting with aliens, I personally would love to think that was true. I have seen zero evidence to back that statement up. But isn't it interesting that story comes out about Eisenhower meeting with aliens at the base, I think it was even Holloman, to obfuscate the real story behind it. And that was this potential landing case that was filmed. But let's just muddy the waters and throw out some batshit crazy stuff with no evidence whatsoever, when I'm not saying I got a bunch of evidence to prove what I just said, but I got a lot more than they got on this Eisenhower thing.
Now, before we get to your announcement, and we can keep going if you want.
I wouldn't mind getting back to the.
Okay, yeah, you're on vacation.
In an empty park.
You're on vacation, man, and I
am, and I got everybody waiting. We're gonna have a shot of whiskey when I get back. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Man, that sounds so good. You know what I do have? Oh, see, normally I run cameras between you and I. Tonight we can't do that. But I do have some alien vodka I'm holding up to the camera.
Wow!
So you do that. I'll do the alien.
You do the vodka.
I'll do the vodka. Is the Virginia? Is this a 2022 release? Are you just full on into this right now?
Yeah. So I was already into it. And I was going to feature some of it in the phenomenon, and I spent quite some time putting it together, and then literally scrapped the whole thing, which was like heartbreaking because, I went to China twice. I don't think anything. I had one or two statements in the end credits from China. I mean, there was so much material, so much stuff that didn't make it in. I mean, the whole Holloman Air Force Base stuff. Do you think I wanted to cover that case after my extensive interview? I've got clips from Paul Shartle at Norton Air Force Base. I got audio recordings of Alan Sandler. I've got extensive on-camera interviews with Bob Emenegger. None of it made in the movie. So I was like, I went to Virginia 3 times. Like, I gotta. So, yes, to answer your question, extensive work has already been done, but I'm doing some follow-up interviews. I'm going to be posted up there for a month, but I'm editing on the scene. And then I'm going to be living in a barn in Vermont with 4 other people, translators from Brazil, music composition, sound, and some other editors. I'm an editor myself, but it's going to be like a 24/7 kind of production. And so we're going to churn this out in an unprecedented, timely fashion. So, yes, it's all hands on deck.
Yeah, you say barn. I don't think that there's cows and chickens in this barn in Vermont.
Well, they do have them up the road, but at one point mine had horses, but not now. No,
no, not now, not now. Okay, what would you like to
All right,
announce,
so let me-
good sir?
Okay, so I know that a lot of the audience is not in Memphis, Tennessee, but there was a gentleman who's been incredibly enthusiastic and supportive. His name is Percy. He goes by Percy T, and he has managed to get Malco Theaters to premiere the film in Memphis on July 28th and August 3rd in downtown Memphis, Tennessee at 7 p.m. So it's going to be, kind of a little red carpet premiere. The film's going to finally get to be featured in a theater with 5.1 Dolby surround mix. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not a big, it's more the fact that, hey, this film is going to be featured in a theater. So if anyone knows anyone in Memphis, Tennessee, the dates are July 28th and August 3rd in Memphis, Tennessee at 7 p.m. in Malco Theater. That's MALCO Theater. So the film would be premiering 2 nights.
And that's next week.
Cool.
That's next week.
Yep, that's next week.
And
it's kind of cool, right?
Are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there for one of them. Yes, I'm just not sure which one.
Oh man, I gotta work. What day of the week is the 3rd?
I want to say Thursday, but I'd have to look at my calendar.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up right now. Man, should I fly out there for this? Let me see here. Let's pull out the calendar. June, May, July, August 3rd is a Tuesday.
Okay, yeah. So the other one's I guess the first is the 28th a Thursday.
28th is a Wednesday.
Okay, so it's going to be a Wednesday and a Tuesday.
I'm working both nights. I would have flown out. I would have booked my tickets right now.
You know what? There's also a screening in California. We had it all set up to be at the Sonoma International Film Festival, which is quite a production. And we were probably a week away. Jacques was going to be there. Chris Mellon was flying in. A number of other people were flying out to be there. And then COVID hit and shut that down. But they're doing that in August in Sonoma at the Sonoma Film Festival.
Are you going to fly out for that?
So I will not be able to fly for that one because I'd have to get the date on that one. But I'm not going to make it for that one. But my point is that there is some level of interest if it does well, if it's received well, that there could be a limited theatrical release of the film that would make exceptions because of COVID. And that could be exciting because that's been kind of my dream.
Yeah, man, I want to hang out with you on the red carpet, bro. How fun would that be? Yeah, I mean, we've only been planning it for 2 friggin' years.
Well, 27 for me, so.
James, all my best to your family. Tell Ollie to take another selfie for the world. That was pretty epic.
Oh, thank you. That's really awesome. Thank you.
I'm a stalker. I follow that stuff. So that was really cool.
Always have a lot of fun in your show. I hope I didn't talk too much because sometimes I do that.
Never. And we don't do this enough, my friend. So get back to work. And I can't wait for Virginia. I'm very excited about this. It's such an extraordinary case. I know it's going to be a great film. We have to wait, but it's going to be great. In the meantime, you've got a lot of work to do. Go hang out with the family. Go do that whiskey, and we will talk soon. Thank you so much, James.
Thanks for having me on. Bye.
You're the best. James Fox just took his UFO Victory Lap. So well deserved. Thank you so much, James. And I am going to take a quick break, and I'll come back and open up the phone lines and hang out with all of you. Thank you so much, James. Have a good night, and say hello to everybody. And I will be right back after this short break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Open lines. 747-228-2051. What a great conversation with James Fox. And there's one thing that I can say about James, which is this. He has dedicated his life to pursuing the answers when it comes to UFOs and ET contact, and certainly what the government knows, but what the world knows and what is really going on out there. And his films, all three, are extraordinary. But talking to him and what he knows and how he has pursued all of this, it's just nothing but respect. I've got nothing but respect for James Fox. And man, I would love to walk the red carpet. We were so close, and it was so funny. As the film got finished, and I was watching it, and all the prep behind it, and the theatrical release, and the red carpet, and how excited, and oh man, I'm telling you, I bought a new suit, and to have the pandemic roll in and throw the kibosh on all of it. And it's not that, I mean, the film released and a huge success and all of that, but it's what he deserved. You know, he deserved that red carpet, the theatrical release, and man, I mean, the pandemic came along and stopped a lot of things around the world, certainly. And wow, what timing. But I want to walk the red carpet with James. And, well, hopefully we'll get something else lined up. But going back to 747-228-2051, if you're on hold, stay right there. UFOs, past, present, and future. I want to go back and visit that part of the conversation for a second. I had read Bob's book about the chase of this film and what the chase of making the film UFOs Past, Present, and Future. That this was part of, there was James and I didn't get into this. This is part of UFO history. So let me share this with you. There was a whole thing that was tied in behind the release of this film, which was disclosure that was directed by the White House, and there were going to be themed events across the country, displays, this huge ET disclosure. That this huge, I'm talking like, think like theme parks, right? This huge rollout of disclosure and what Bob Ebenegger was told this film would represent. So that he had the full support of the White House, that all military bases were open, the Pentagon was behind them, and he literally had carte blanche, and anything and everything was going to be available to him, and he could interview anybody, and that the Pentagon doors were wide open to him. All of this was presented in the film in this fashion, but the centerpiece of this film was going to be this Holloman Air Force Base UFO landing, and that was, again, a promise to Bob Ebenegger, and he centered the film around this. And again, this entire countrywide government-supported rollout of disclosure and ETs. And that was UFOs past, present, and future. This was a big, big deal. And it didn't happen. The film was made, and you can go and watch it, UFOs Past, Present, and Future. You can go and watch it, and it is an extraordinary documentary. And Rod Serling is narrating it. The Holloman Air Force Base landing obviously did make it into the film. At the end of the film, like James presents it here, there is what is told in the film, that a few seconds of this UFO landing is here in the film, and they show it. You got a blue sky, you've got this disc. It's more of it's a light. Okay, I don't think, my memory doesn't say anything metallic. It's just like this, and they only and it's only there for a few seconds. And James is right. Rod Serling says this, what we're about to show you may have already happened or may happen in the future. Like this weird statement around these few seconds in the film. Now, if it wasn't the real footage, and I guess now Bob Ebenegger says that it wasn't, I think that it was always purported to be the actual footage of the film, and that was all they were allowed to present in the documentary. But if it was fake, why not just show a landing? Why not have the whole recreation? Why not do that? They only showed those few seconds of the film, and then they also speak about what had happened. But this part of UFO history, going back to the early 70s, 72 to 74. And what Bob Emenegger went through and Alan Sandler to make this film happen, it was crazy. And they were going from base to base and clandestine conversations and absolute craziness chasing down this film. And they were always one step behind. Now, it turns out that Alan Sandler, which I didn't know that Alan had actually seen the film. I thought that Bob Ebenegger had seen the film. But turns out it wasn't Bob, it was Alan. And very interesting description. And you heard it from James. James heard it from Alan directly and his description of what had happened. Very interesting. And for Alan to say in the end, and I'm hearing this for the first time tonight with all of you, for him to say it may have been special effects, or maybe it was a real flying saucer, but it was ours. That's even more interesting. His description of the leader, I'm picturing Mars attacks, right? But two beings come down, stand on both sides of the stairs, and then the leader comes down wearing this outfit, holding what seemed like a communication device. And that's where Alan stopped and said, at that point, he's thinking special effects. I'm going to have to go back and listen to James's description, his recollection of his conversation with Alan Sandler. So, wow. Okay, 747-228-2051. I've got calls on hold. Let's see who's up first. Things come down. Oh, man, hold on. Sorry about that. I have got something going live here. That's my fault. Okay. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Sorry you were listening to the show in delay.
What's up, man? My name is Christian. I'm from Washington State, and I have an important question to ask you, kind of ish.
Sure.
So,
what's up?
I asked Richard Dolan and Grant Cameron about if they've ever heard about NATO Special Forces UFO recovery squads, and they were they have never heard of it. But why I ask is because Lou Elizondo actually referenced that. He's like, I wonder what NATO has seen over the years. So I'm wondering if you have ever heard anything about that.
Wait, how did Lou come into this? Did Lou reference this?
So I heard this a long time ago. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named can't think of his name right now, but this was all from an older video. It's Rich Planet, I believe his name is. Have you ever heard of a guy named Rich Planet?
You're talking about I'm trying to think of his last name, from the United Kingdom, and his channel was Rich Planet. It's oh man. Yeah, we know each other. I'm trying to okay.
So,
but
that guy is really his content is really good. Like I'm beyond flabbergasted by all the content. Yes, but yes, he's referenced. He had a specific video about the human mutilation cases that these special forces guys would always run into when they have to recover alien craft. And I'm aware that the Department of Energy also doing the same thing. That they also have their recovery squads, scientists, and all that stuff. So I was just wondering. I've been trying really hard to get Lou to answer this question because he's the one that referenced it and also referenced Brazil, which I'm guessing he meant the human mutilation case that took place over there.
Yeah, and hang on for 1 second. Let me do this, and then I'm going to be right back to you. I have to do something really quick with my computer, which I'm doing now. You are actually talking about Richard D. Hall. That's his name, Richard D. Hall. And another thing that he talked about a lot, which doesn't get discussed a lot, but Richard D. Hall did a lot of research into human mutilations, not cattle mutilations, right? And that caused some controversy for him over the years, and I think it even got him censored, and maybe even some of his material pulled down. It was pretty controversial.
He hasn't posted since for a year now, since last year. I thought they might have got him.
Yeah. Great researcher. Great. I think he lives here in the United States now. But anyway, so Rich Planet, which is his UFO channel, or UFO channel, YouTube channel, and also the name of his website. I don't know if it's still up.
It is. I was just on it a few days ago.
Okay. All right. He's tenacious, man. He's really good. I've followed him a lot over the years, and his content was riveting. He did not play around.
It was. Yeah. It is, dude. It's crazy. I'm surprised that more people don't know about him.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. So he would know about that because he's an international researcher, and he was based in the United Kingdom, for his entire career. So if somebody would know about NATO recovery teams, it would be Richard D. Hall. Also,
I'm guessing we will on those, since he's the one that even made me just start to question it, because I put it off at first, but after Lou said something about it, and then said something more or less about the human mutilation a few minutes after, I'm like, okay, does this dude watch the same type of content, or like, what's going on?
Yeah, and thank you for bringing this up, Christian. I think that's very interesting, and certainly Twitter and the Fadernauts are going to jump on this too as well. I can reach out to Richard D. Hall. I have direct contacts with him, and he's somebody I've always wanted on the show. And
yeah, man, that'd be sick.
Yeah, it'd be great. And he's always had, some weird things going on, and we could never put it together. But now that you've mentioned it, I'm writing it down here in my notes. I'll reach out to Richard and see what we can do about that. Thank you so much, Christian.
Can I ask you one more thing, which is real quick? Please?
Sure.
Okay, so I was watching a Linda Moulton Howe video a while back, and she had an interview with this guy who was a part of the Army in Hawaii. And he said that the older brass, always talks about the UFOs and everything, but the young guys know not to talk about it. But he said he overheard that when the older guys were talking that, these things had been living underground or whatever. They just kind of leave us alone. They've seen 3 generations, or they've experienced human life, I guess, 3 times or whatever. Like, they've been here ever since. And that they're also the ones who are, flying around in the black helicopters. So, the ones that are always chasing down UFOs, as in the aliens are. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so is there a third party that is trying to like come onto our turf or something, and they're just trying to defend our turf, or like what?
all great questions. And this is what I think, and I've got to get some more calls in the next couple of minutes, Christian. But I really feel that these conversations that have happened over the years, and Linda certainly has covered a lot of this, that I think we are at this turning point where some of this stuff is going to start to come out. And some of the more sensational things that have been talked about over the years, whether it's UFO bases in the ocean or things under the ground or direct contact with the military, and some of these statements that have been made, what if something starts to break out? And I'm talking about like Phil Schneider, for instance. And yeah, who knows?
I feel bad for that guy, man. I believe him 200%.
Yeah. No, Phil Schneider was great. Christian, enjoy your night, and we'll see you tomorrow night right here with Ron Keel.
Perfect. Thank you so much, man. Have a good one.
You too, Christian. That's a great phone call right there. Richard D. Hall freaked me out. He freaked out a lot of people, but he was willing to chase the evidence. And I remember him saying, this is going to be rough for some people to listen to, but this is where the road is leading me right now. Richard D. Hall, incredible. Rich Planet, just an incredible video production that he did over the years. Oh, man, one more call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, your buddy Plan B from New York.
How you doing, Plan B? What's cracking?
Nothing much. Just enjoying the show. Figured I'd give you a call, check in at the end of the show.
Well, you're calling me, so what's on your mind? We got like 1, maybe 2 minutes.
Well, I don't know. Well, good, because I wanted to get a little recap on that story James Fox was talking about the Emenager video. And was he trying to say that it was some sort of alien tech landing at the Air Force Base and people in costumes were emerging? I was getting a little confused there.
Well, see, now that's what Alan Sandler said. But Alan Sandler sounds like he said two things, that the landing was real. It was a real flying saucer, but he felt that maybe we were flying it. And maybe the aliens, that came down the stairs might have been actors. And yes, so you didn't hear that incorrectly. This film,
that seems so strange.
Well, but this film, it has been talked about now in my memory, I've heard about it for 40 years. And and this film of the landing at Holloman Air Force Base and the beings coming down and meeting with military personnel, and that's what you've got to go watch. If you haven't seen this documentary, UFOs Past, Present, and Future, you've got to go and watch it. It is.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and it's the story around it and how the White House was involved and the Pentagon and the military and this whole rollout of disclosure that was going to happen in 1974 and Bob Emenager, chasing this film down and trying to get to it. It's an extraordinary piece of UFO history, and that's why when you watch that documentary, why that documentary is so important. You need to know the backstory with Bob Emenager and Alan Sandler. It's an incredible adventure that they went on.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard all the rumors and legends about the backstory about that documentary. But then when he mentioned the part about the guys emerging with the costumes, that blew my mind. I was like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah. And I've got to roll credits and get out of here, Plan B, but you're absolutely right. I mean, the story behind it, not only the film and that this film existed, but to actually have Alan Sandler to have seen it and describe to James Fox exactly what he had seen. So thank you so much for the phone call, Plan B. And we will see you tomorrow night right here. And I want to remind everybody what's going on tomorrow night. It's pretty cool. Ron Keel is going to be with us. Ron Keel, of course, the lead singer of Keel and Steeler and the Ron Keel Band. He's going to be with me all night tomorrow night, manning the phones, taking your phone calls, and hanging out. Everything is on the table tomorrow night with Ron Keel. And now I've got to get out of here. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Fader Night with Ron Keel. I cannot wait for it. But until then, I want everybody to be safe. It's time to fade to black.